Very good. So you got it. Put your hands in the air if you're having fun. Awesome. So let's do one more in Desi style. So in this cardio, you're gonna smile throughout the song, okay? And you're gonna have fun, and you're not stopping, okay? Are we good? Awesome. Get up, get up. That was great. Awesome, awesome. Clap for yourself, clap for yourself. Good job, good job. Awesome. So, we're done with 2 cardios. If you want to go have a sip of water, you can do it. I'll give you 20 seconds. Go. Get back to your positions. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. So I'm going to start my choreography. Concentrate a little. See, I always believe in one thing. If you can walk, you can dance. Okay, so don't say I don't know dance, this is the first time, nothing, you're just gonna dance, that's it. Okay, smile and dance, that is very important. Okay, everyone smile once, no serious faces here. Awesome, nice. So let's do it. I'll show you something very easy.
Hi, can you increase your volume, please, for the audio?
I'll try to, but this is the maximum volume I have, I guess. Let's see.
The music volume, when you turn it on, can you increase that?
Okay, the music volume. Yeah, I can increase that. I can increase the music volume.
Okay, yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, next together. Next together. So what is the basic move we think of when we go to a dance floor, or when we hit a dance floor? It's just a step, touch, step, touch, step, touch. Very easy. Step, touch, step, touch, step, touch, step, touch. Simple. Now we're gonna do this. Like this is your left hand. Show me your left hands, your right hand. Areva, nice. So this is your left hand. Got it. Now, so you're gonna use your left hand. Keep it here, like near your right ear. You're gonna throw it, lift it and click. Nice. 1, 2. Then you're gonna do 3, 4. No shortcut. I'm not doing this. I'm throwing it to click. Yeah. 5, 6, 7, go. Left hand click, right hand click. 5, 6, 7, go. Left hand click and right hand click. 5, 6, 7, go. Left click, right click. 5, 6, 7, go. Left click, right click. 5, 6, 7, go. Left snap, right snap. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, nice. Now we want to do it with the legs. It's very simple. I'll keep my legs together. I'll use my left leg to go towards my left. Step, touch, step, touch. Keep your hands back. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now make it look like dance, okay? Don't just walk. We're not doing mass force here, okay? We're not doing the military training. So don't be so rigid. Relax. Relax. Do this. Do this. Yeah, make it loose. Yeah. 5, 6, 7, go. Left leg touch. Right leg touch. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Simple. Hands up. Awesome. Now we're going to add 2 things together. 1, 2, 3, 4 with the football. Let's try that. Your left hand is towards near your right ear. You will throw it to click towards your left side. While stepping with your left leg. 5, 6, 7, go. Left leg touch. Right leg touch. Yes, I see everyone doing it. Let's try one more time. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, go. Left leg touch. Right leg touch. Nice. So now what we're doing? We step. When I'm touching with the other leg, I'll click. So the snap is happening when I'm touching with the second leg. Simple. I'm moving forward. 5, 6. One last time, then we'll move forward. 5, 6, 7, go. Da, 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 da. Yes. Now from here, I will step with my right leg out and hit with my left shoulder. Simple. 5, 6. It's very simple. Like see, if I'm standing beside my friend and I want him to give him a hint that let's get out of this place and do this. 1. Yeah, I'll hit it. I'm not moving it. I'm hitting it. Yes, do that. Come on. Do that. Yeah. Nice. 5, 6, 7, go. 1. As of now, just with the shoulder. Your left shoulder, you're giving towards your right side. 5, 6, 7, go. 1. 5, 6, 7, go. 1. Nice. Now while hitting it, open your right leg out. 5, 6, 7, go. 1. 5, 6, 7, go. 1. The same way, keep your legs there itself and hit your right shoulder up. Easy? Let's try. 5 legs together. 5, 6, 7, go. Open your right leg and hit your left shoulder. Then your right shoulder. Nice. Can we connect from the top? From the top. Legs together, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's try. Legs together. Aram se. Very slow. 5, 6, 7. Go. Through and click. Swing and click. Right shoulder. So left shoulder. Right shoulder. Now wait. There's a magic now. There's a small twist here. 1 and 2. Okay, so I'll let you in a very detailed way. So what I'm doing is, this is my left shoulder, right shoulder, left and left. Yes, that's it. So you go left, right, left and left. 5, 6, 7, go. Left, right, left and left. 5, 6, 7, go. Left, right, left and left. Can I see that one more time? It's looking so good when everyone is doing it. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Nice. Now try to keep your face towards the camera. Okay, look into my eyes and do it. Okay, let's not do this. Okay, 5, 6, look at me, come on. 5, 6, 7, go. Left, right, left and left. Awesome. Now what is happening with your hands? It's not really important to keep it straight like this. You can keep your hands a little away from your body so that you get the style. Go 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, go. Left, right, left and left. Yes. So let's try the whole thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Left, right, left and left. Yeah. 5 and 6. And get ready. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Nice. Let's try that. So I'll sing the song. I'm a very bad singer, but still I'll try. 5, 6. Let's go. You're going to do the same thing. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, gadi 22. Mastu cut out 2. Yes. How many of you know the song? Lift your hand. Arey, nice. Yes, sir. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, gadi 22. Mastu cut out 2. Nice. Now from here, very simple. You're gonna hop towards your left side. But how? Watch me. I'll bend down and hop. That's it. And again, I'll bend down towards my left side and hop towards my right side. Nice. While doing that, do this. As if you're searching. Yeah, like this. So go. So if you're hopping towards your right side, your left side, you're gonna use your left hand. If you're hopping towards your right side, you're gonna use your right hand. Let's try that. 1 and 2. We are in the last position. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice. Can I move on from there? Lovely. Now let's do one last time before we move on from it. 5, next together. 5, 6, 7, go. Swing and click, swing and click. 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. Okay, so let's do it the song. Okay, we have an amazing singer, Sai Ronak. I'm gonna sing. Please bear with me. 5 and 6 and 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, gadi 22. Mastila mastu cut out. Sandu sandula na na na. Now from here, very easy. Okay, you have to come back to this position after giving me a thumbs up. Can I move on? Yeah, say that again. So we're doing Sandu Sandula Mandala. Do this. Yeah. So it's very easy. And why are you going zigzag? Yeah. So while doing this, you're gonna go forward like with a short step. It should look very funny. I'll go 1 by 3. Keep your back straight. Keep your back straight. Go forward like that. 5 by 7. Come back. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Awesome. So this has to happen very fast. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 22. By suttu you have to come back. Is that good? Okay, I'll give you a small brief. Like let's see how that looks with the song.
బాగా ఏ సర్టిఫికెట్ ఉంది ఆడిపోతామా మనం వచ్చే చెప్పుకున్నాం 1 2 గానికి 22 పస్తిల మస్త్ రైట్ స్పైస్లో శేఖర్ సార్ అబ్బో ఇది బాగా ఏ సర్టిఫికెట్ ఉంది ఆడిపోతామా మనం వచ్చే చెప్పుకున్నాం 1 2 గానికి 22 పస్తిల మస్తు కట్అవుట్ పచ్చగాళ్ళ ప్యాచ్ ఉండేది వచ్చినమంటే సుట్టు కిక్కే సాలక ఓ నైటు చెట్టి డొక్కు బుల్లెట్.
One more time. Be ready. Be in your positions. Forget your phones.
శేఖర్ సార్ అబ్బో ఇది బాగా ఏ సర్టిఫికెట్ ఉంది ఆడిపోతామా
5, 6, 7, go.
1 2 గానికి 22 పస్తిల మస్తు కట్అవుట్ పచ్చగాళ్ళ ప్యాచ్ ఉండేది వచ్చినమంటే సుట్టు కిక్కే సాలక ఓ నైటు చెట్టి డొక్కు బుల్లెట్.
Okay, now clear to that? Put your hands up. Can I move on? Awesome. So we went forward like this, and we open our hand. Stand like this. Okay, let's try that. Don't do only this part. 5, 6, 7, go. Vachinamante suttu. Nice. Now what I'm doing is I'll step in like towards my right side. Right? This is my right side. So I'll go towards my right side. I'll use 2 steps. 2, 3, 4. I'll just step with my right leg. 5, watch me. 5, 6, 7, go. Right leg, left leg, right. You step 2 times forward, 2 times back. The same way, if you use your right leg, your left hand will come forward the way you walk normally. So this is the way you walk. Opposite hand, opposite leg. The same way you go with your right leg forward, left hand up. But we exaggerating it. We'll make it look like something like that. Okay? Let's try that. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So here what I'm doing is I'm lifting my leg before placing it. I'm not just walking straight. I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. 5, 6, 7, go. Right leg, left leg back, right leg back. So when I'm going back, I tell myself my torso is going little down. That's it. So when I'm going forward, I keep my torso little slightly back. Okay, I'm little like this, little slant. 5 and 6. What's the last note? From your 5, 6, 7, go. Now from here, how you ride a bike? If you know, if you know Chatak scooters, like, do you guys know what a scooter? Like you'll have a kicker. Not this scooter, not the sliding one. What kids play? The scooter. You have a kick rod. You know a kick rod, right? Like how you start a bike? Simple. 5 and 6 and 5 like 2. But you do it in the air. Don't step. Don't step. What do you say? On the floor. Don't stomp on the floor. Just do it in the air. Twice. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2. Now go. That's it. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2. I'm using my left leg. My torso is towards my right side. I'm starting a bike like this. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2. See what I'm doing with my hands. My hands are stiff. I'm just doing this. I'm just accelerating it. Yeah. 5, 6, 7, go. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2. I'm towards my right side. Yes, we are diagonally towards our right. Yeah. 5 and 6. Let's do some walking part. You start with your right leg. 5, 6, 7, go. Right leg, left leg back, right leg back. Now your left leg is forward. Kick with the left leg. Nice. Now from here you do 1, 2. The same way you're doing back, forward, forward. Simple. Nice. Let's go. 5 and 6 and 5, 6, 7. Let's start from 1. 5, 6, 7. Go. Step, 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 step. Start the bike. Kick forward. Now when you kick forward, what happens is my right hand is coming like this. I'm giving it here. With my left hand, I do this. Yeah. So we're doing this. Yeah. So it's like kikke zalagavu naitu yaki dokku bullet. Areva, nice. Let's do it. 5 and 6 and 5, 6. Let's do from the walk. 5, 6, 7. Go. Kikke zalagavu naitu yaki dokku bullet. Nice. Can we connect all these things together from the top till here? Let's together. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, gadi 22. Bastilla mastu cut out to. Bacha gana bathroom devi. Vachinamante suttu. Sorry, starting with the right again. Kikke zalakavu naitu yaki tokku bullet. Nice. Let's do one more time because I forgot. It was my bad. You are doing very nice. It's my fault. I have to do it again. 5. Just let me know if I'm doing something wrong. 5. Next year. 5, 6, 7. Go. 1, 2, gadi 22. Bastilla mastu cut out. Bacha gana bathroom devi. Vachinamante suttu. Kikke zalagavu naitu yaki tokku bullet. Nice. Clear? Relax. Can I move on from there? Nice. Yaki tokku bullet. Now from here, you turn towards your right side. Sandu Sandula Mandu Kosam Yatuku Tande Route 2. That's it. I don't think I have to explain this. You can just watch me again and you can do it. So like Sandu Sandula Mandu Kosam Yatuku Tande Route 2. Nice. Can we try all these things together from the top with the music? We have to rush.
మన మ్యూజిక్ ఏమన్నా అబ్బా ఎవరి గురించి మాట్లాడదాం రెడ్డి గారు లైఫ్ లో స్పైస్ ఉండవు శేఖర్ సార్ అబ్బో ఇది బాగా ఏ సర్టిఫికెట్ అవుతాయి ఆడియో అవుతుందా 22 బస్తిల మస్తు కట్అవుట్ పచ్చగాళ్ళ బ్యాచ్ ఉండేది వచ్చినమంటే సుట్టు తిక్కేసాలక ఓ రైటు ఎత్తి డొక్కు బుల్లెట్ సందు సందుల మందు కోసం ఎదుకుతాంటే రూటు సిగ్గు చీర కట్టుకొని చెడు వీరు మెలిసినట్టు ఎత్తి అంటూ శేఖర్ సార్ అబ్బో ఇది బాగా ఏ సర్టిఫికెట్ అవుతాయి ఆడియో అవుతుందా 22 బస్తిల మస్తు కట్అవుట్ పచ్చగాళ్ళ బ్యాచ్ ఉండేది వచ్చినమంటే సుట్టు తిక్కేసాలక ఓ రైటు ఎత్తి డొక్కు బుల్లెట్ సందు సందుల మందు కోసం ఎదుకుతాంటే రూటు సిగ్గు చీర కట్టుకొని చెడు వీరు.
Nice. Now from here, see, I tell you the last part. Is like 1, 2, 3, 4. Clear? Ekitoku bullet. Clear to that? Now from here, use your left leg to turn towards your right side. It goes 1, 2. We have only 2 turns. We have only 2 turns to turn. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. You have 4 hops. It goes towards your right, towards your left. So I'm doing this with my left hand, this with my right hand. Sandu Sandula Mandu Kosam. Mandu is liquor. Okay, we're doing this to show that. 5, 6, 7, go. Sandu Sandula Mandu Kosam. Yattukutande Rutu. Nice. Now from here, take your right hand onto your head. Take your left hand onto this. This is very easy mode. Silku siragattu koni. So you got to do it twice. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2. This has to be like very good because here we're not doing much of dance. Okay. So this has to be like a lot of identity. Silku siragattu koni. Very subtle. 5, 6, 7, go. So I'm doing that. So we done with this part? Do this part. Your right hand is on your head. Your left hand is on your hip. Get your left leg in. Childu beat. Keep your right hand down, left hand up. 1 and 2, and use your head to do this. You're gonna do that. Try. 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 5. Yes. So it has to be like very funny. Silku siragattu koni childu virugu. Nice. 5 and 6. Let's try that. 5 and 6. 5, 6, 7, go. Silku siragattu koni childu virugu. So you have only one count there. You do 1, 2. Okay. So let's do it from where? From walk, back. From there. 5, 6, 7, go. Right, left, right, left. From here you hop twice to go towards your right side. 1, 2, 3, 4. You go to ta ta. Now take the right hand down onto your head. Now from here, I will take my which hand is this? My left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so before that, I'll teach you a very easy footwork of Bollywood. If you can do this, you can do any dance. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. Twice. 5, 6. Work with me. 5, 6, 7. Go start with your right leg. Right, right, left, left. Simple. 5, 6, 7. Go. Right leg, left leg. 5, 6, 7. Go. Right leg, left leg. 5, 6, 7. Go. Right leg and left leg and. So I'm using a tap in between. I'll go right, back, right, left, back, left. 5, one more time. 5, 6, 7, go. Right, shift, right, left, shift, left. Now try to be very subtle there. We go 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So people who are finding it a little harder, you can try only this. You step, you're going to bend your knees twice. Step, bend your knees twice. 5, it creates the same illusion. 5, 6, 7, go. Right leg and left leg and. 5, 6, 7, go. Right leg, bend twice, left leg twice. 5, 6, 7, go. Right leg twice, left leg twice. 5, 6, 7, go. Right leg twice, left leg twice. Arre, wow, nice. So now while doing this, with your left hand, we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4. Now from with both the hands, you're gonna do 1, 2. As if you're dying. Like, yeah, and reveal your face. I'll go. Ooh. Yeah. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow, nice. So let's try that. 5 and 6. So from there. So you're gonna do that. Watch me. Left hand, right hand, 2 hands together to do this. Like, yeah, and this is like one prasad, okay? So we're gonna respect it like that. Like, we're gonna be like, okay, this is so precious. How you say that? Like, imagine you have a diamond in your hands, like, this is so nice. Yeah, imagine I'm giving you a diamond. Take it, how you will take a diamond, you don't snatch it like this. You'll be like, yeah, come on, give it a minute. Okay, let's do that. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's try that. From where? From here. 5, 6, 7. Nice. Can you do it from the top to see how it works throughout the song? 5 and 6 and 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, 22. So from here, Bastila must cut out to Bacha Gana batch one day, Wachina Monday, so to Kike Zalaka night to Yaki Taku Bullet to Sandu Sandula, Mandu Kosam, Yatutate Rutu. Silku Zira Gatu Koni Silku Biru Nasi Natu Potlam Gatina Biryani Potu Dilla Vitti Natu Now from here, very easy. We're gonna go back. That's it. We're gonna do it twice. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, 3. That's it. So what I'm doing, I'll tell you. This is the last move, last position. Can you see my face? It's hiding. Come. Just give me a second. I'll just adjust this. Yeah. So this is your last position. Yeah. Your right leg is forward. Now keep your hands this way. As if you lifted a bucket or something. Now from here you throw it towards your right side, left side, right side. Now if I'm throwing it towards my right, I'll lift my right leg up. Right leg up, left leg up, right leg up. Awesome. Let's try that. 5, 6, 5. 1 second, just okay, I think we need to wrap up. So I go Bangla Meedan Samundiro. We do the same thing again forward. One more time. We go one more time forward. 5, 6. So we'll do the last part from the previous part. 5, 6, 7. Go. Bangla Meedan Samundiro. Oh Chanda Mama. Same again. You just do this. Okay? Now stay there. We'll wait until the signature step comes. For the signature step, you lift your right hand up. With your left hand, you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're going to do this stepping your leg. I'll tell you one more time. Keep your right hand up. With your left hand, you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Easy? Now from here, we're going to do this like that. Now, same leg, step with your left leg forward. Left leg forward and back. Left leg forward and back. Let's try that. 5, 6, 7. Ramulo, Ramula. So you're going to do twice. Then again you get back to do one more time. Now one more time. I'm rushing a bit, but I think you are getting it. Put your hands in the air if you're getting it. That's awesome. Yeah. 5 and 6 and 5. Keep your right hand up. Left hand. 5, 6, 7, go. Round low. Round up. Now from here, you step with your left leg forward. You do 1. Back, 2, back. Then again you go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, back, 2, back. Let's do it from the top and see this. 5, 6, 7, next together. 5, 6, 7, next together, from the top. 1, 2, drag it from there. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, drag it to 22. Bastilla mastu cut out to Bacha Gana Bachande Wachina Mande Sutu Kike Zalaka Online to Yaki Toku Bullet to Sandu Sandula Mandu Sosam Yatu Tande Rutu Na 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 Chillu Viru Zinatu Putlam Gatina Biryani Precious thing is in front of you. Na 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 na. Walk forward. Na 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 na. Do this. And you wait until the signature step comes. When the signature step is there, from here, get your right hand up to do Ramulo, Ramula, Nana Jesidu. Ramulo, Ramula, Nana Jesidu. Awesome. Let's try all these things together. One more time with counts, then with the music. Let's do that. 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, go. 1 2 22 బస్తీల మస్తు కట్టౌటు వచ్చాక బ్యాచ్ ఉండేది వచ్చినమంటే సుట్టు కిక్కే జాడకో నైట్ ఎక్కిదకు బుల్లెట్ చందు సొన్న కోసం గట్టుకుంటాడు సుకుజీనట్టుకొని చెడు వీరు నసిన పొట్లంగట్టిన బిర్యానీకి పొట్టు బిల్ల పెట్టినట్టు బొంగా వీర నందిలో and forward na 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 wait for the signature move Ivana yo ramulo ramuna na 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 ramulo ramuna na 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 nice awesome I'm so sorry. Thanks for bearing my horrible singing. But since we have less time, I had to go a little faster. But let's try it with the music. Be it good, bad, worse, whatever it is, whatever you learned so far, you can do it. Don't stop. Just dance anything. Look at me. I'm also dancing there with you. Let's do it with the music. Be ready. And everyone smile when you're dancing. Don't be serious.
ఎవరు మాట్లాడదాం రెడ్డి గారు లైఫ్ శేఖర్ సార్ అబ్బో ఇది బాగా ఏ సర్టిఫికెట్ మన ముచ్చటే చెప్పుకున్నాం 1 2 గానికి 22 బస్తీల మస్తు కట్అవుట్ పచ్చగాళ్ళ బ్యాచ్ ఉండేది వచ్చినమంటే సుట్టు కిక్కే సారక ఓ నైటు ఎక్కి డొక్కు బుల్లెట్ సందుల మందు కోసం ఎటుకుతాంటే రూటు సిగ్గు చీర కట్టుకొని చెడు వీరు మెరిసినట్టు పొట్లం కట్టిన బిర్యానీకి పొట్టు బిల్ల పెట్టినట్టు పల్లా మీద నిలుసోనుందిరో ఓ సందమామ సుఖదా చెర్రు జీవంతమ్మ లెక్క దుంకుతుంటెరో ఆ సందమామ జాలి సిక్కుకుందిరో నా దిల్లుకు మావా రాముడా నాగం చేసిందిరో రాముడా నాగం చేసిందిరో రాముడా నాగం చేసిందిరో రాముడా పానం తీసిందిరో రాముడా నాగం చేసిందిరో రాముడా.
Let's do one more time. Okay, let's do a fair take.
రెడ్డి గారు
I'll give you the counts.
శేఖర్ సార్ అబ్బో ఇది బాగా ఏ సర్టిఫికెట్ అవుతుంది ఆడిడు అవుతుందా
5 6 7 go
1 2 గానికి 22 బస్తీల మస్తు కట్అవుట్ పచ్చగాళ్ళ బ్యాచ్ ఉండేది వచ్చినమంటే సుట్టు కిక్కే సారక ఓ నైటు ఎక్కి డొక్కు బుల్లెట్ సందుల మందు కోసం ఎటుకుతాంటే రూటు సిగ్గు చీర కట్టుకొని చెడు వీరు మెరిసినట్టు పొట్లం కట్టిన బిర్యానీకి పొట్టు బిల్ల పెట్టినట్టు పల్లా మీద నిలుసోనుందిరో ఓ సందమామ సుఖదాక చక్కరొచ్చెర్రో జీవంతమ్మ లెక్క దుంకుతుంటెరో ఆ సందమామ చుట్టి జాలి సిక్కుకుందిరో నా దిల్లుకు మావా రాముడా నాగం చేసిందిరో రాముడా నాగం చేసిందిరో రాముడా నాగం చేసిందిరో రాముడా పానం తీసిందిరో రాముడా నాగం చేసిందిరో.
So till now I was playing the song with a slower pace. I'll play it faster. Just give it a try. Even I don't know whether I'll be able to do it or not. Let's try it. Okay, with the actual pace. One last time, then I think we're done.
ఎవరు మాట్లాడదాం రెడ్డి గారు లైఫ్ శేఖర్ సార్ అబ్బో ఇది బాగా ఏ సర్టిఫికెట్ ఉంది ఆడిడమ్మా
అంటూ గానికి 22 మస్తుల మస్తు కట్అవుట్ పచ్చగాన్ల బ్యాచ్ ఉండేది వచ్చిన మండే సుట్టు టికే సారక ఓ నైటు చెక్కి డొక్కు బుల్లెట్ సందుల మందు కోసం ఎదుగుతాండే రోడ్డు సిగ్గు చీరగట్టుకోని చెడు వీరు మెరిసినట్టు పొట్లం కట్టిన బిర్యానీకి పొట్టు పిల్ల పెట్టినట్టు పందా మీద నిలుసోనుందిరో ఓ సందమామ సుఖదాగ దూకుతుంటారో ఆ సందమావ చుట్టి జాలి చిక్కుకుందిరో నా తెలుగు మావ రామనాగం చేసింది రామనాగం చేసింది
That was a good try. I want to do one last time. Isha, please. One last. Okay, yeah. Awesome. Let's do the fast bit. Kids, get up. You can do it.
కాకుండా మనం చూసుకోవాలి
I'll give you the count. So it goes faster. Bantu, Gadi, 20. Na. It goes faster. So be alert. Oh, sorry. There's some call.
మనం ఎవరి గురించి మాట్లాడదాం లైఫ్ స్పైస్ శేఖర్ సార్ అబ్బో ఇది బాగా ఏ సర్టిఫికెట్ ఉంది ఆడిడమ్మా మనం ముచ్చటే చెప్పుకున్నాం
అంటూ గానికి 22 మస్తుల మస్తు కట్అవుట్ పచ్చగాన్ల బ్యాచ్ ఉండేది వచ్చిన మండే సుట్టు టికే సారక ఓ నైటు చెక్కి డొక్కు బుల్లెట్ సందుల మందు కోసం ఎదుగుతాండే రోడ్డు సిగ్గు చీరగట్టుకోని చెడు వీరు మెరిసినట్టు పొట్లం కట్టిన బిర్యానీకి పొట్టు పిల్ల పెట్టినట్టు పందా మీద నిలుసోనుందిరో ఓ సందమామ సుఖదాగ చక్కరొచ్చెరో చిక్కలెక్క దూకుతుంటారో ఆ సందమావకి జాలి చిక్కుకుంటారో నా తెలుగు మావ రామనాగం చేసింది రామనాగం చేసింది రామనాగం చేసింది రామనాగం చేసింది
Over to Isha.
Okay, thank you. I'm sweating a little too much. Okay, so we have 5 minutes to do a quick Q&A. For those of you who are watching, if you guys want to shoot some questions in the chat box, you can. But while we're waiting, we have a fun movie activity. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm excited. Let's do this.
We're going to tell you the names of the character names in the Telugu movie, and you have to guess which Telugu movie we're talking about.
Okay, I'll try to.
Okay. First, Geeta and Vijay.
Geeta and Vijay. Geeta Govinda.
Yeah.
All right, next, Lucky and Spandana.
Lucky and Spandana, I don't know.
Take a guess, come on.
Allu Arjun.
Lucky.
Kriti Hassan.
It's a good one.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I thought of that, but okay, whatever.
Last one, Hasani and Sidhu.
Bommarillo.
Yeah. Okay. Our next question.
I have one from the audience, actually.
Okay,
Which
shoot.
actress do you have a crush on?
Uh-huh.
Which actress do you have a crush on?
Katrina Kaif.
Nice. What is your most used Telugu bootu that you can share with us today?
I'm a guy from Old City, so the way I talk is like very wrong. I don't think I should do that. Okay, I don't use Telugu bootu, but because I'm a big devotee of Lord Rama, so it's been like 7-8 years. I'm not. I say Jai Shri Ram if I feel bad or if I get angry or whatever it is, I'll say Jai Shri Ram. It's strange, but yeah, I do that.
No, I think that's a good habit, people. Okay, last one. San, do you want to go?
One girl asked, what is your favorite style of dance?
I like any style. I love dancing.
Yeah.
I do every kind of dancing. I like sexy jazz. I like hip hop. I do Bollywood. But Bollywood is something I really enjoy doing. So I can dance Bollywood all day, all night.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you had as much fun as we did. Thank you, Nats, for hosting this.
Thank you so much. I had to rush a little because we had a limited time. But every student was awesome. I really had fun time dancing with you guys. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for all the love. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thank you. Bye. Okay.
All right, everybody, make sure to stick around because we do have a very fun webinar planned with Dr. Roshan Dasari, which will be starting shortly. So probably we'll catch up again in 5 minutes, okay?
Yeah, take everybody little breathe off, okay? You guys danced a lot. Now you guys need to take a breathe off until Roshan is going to be ready for our seminar, okay?
Yep.
Make sure to check the chat window. Again, the links that we mentioned before, they're all posted there for the NATS website, for the Happy to Thrive donation website. They're all in the chat window. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, Sanjana and Isha, Roshan is ready and is live and he's prepared for his PowerPoint also. You guys can able to be introduced and can start the seminar.
Okay.
So to start off with, Isha is going to give us a little intro about what Happy to Thrive is for those of you who weren't there initially.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. So Happy to Thrive is a nonprofit organization focused on raising mental health awareness, excuse me, and destigmatizing mental illnesses. We strive to give hope and inspire others who are suffering from mental health conditions, and we want to use the funds we gain from today's event to provide free meals for healthcare workers in New Jersey, and NATS is partnering with us to help us do so. So a little bit about us, the co-founders. I am one of the co-founders. My name is Isha Kode. I'm 18 years old, and I will be a freshman at the College of New Jersey this year on the pre-med track. I'm also the reigning Miss Teen India Worldwide, and NATS was one of the first organizations to invite me to their huge event last year in Dallas. So it's been a really amazing journey to collaborate with them again and provide you with this event.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sanjana. I'm also the other co-founder of Happy to Thrive. I'm 20 years old and I'm studying cell biology and neuroscience at Rutgers University. I'm very passionate to bring positive change into our community, and hence why I'm working with the Happy to Thrive. And today I'm very excited to be collaborating with NATS to bring forward this virtual event for you guys. Thank you. All right, and now we are going to introduce our special guest for today, Dr. Roshan Dasari. Dr. Roshan Dasari is a psychiatrist from Kansas City who has been in practice for nearly 10 years now. Dr. Dasari puts his interest in the three-pound universe, also known as the mind, to advocate for mental health awareness and bring change into our communities. He's an avid learner and he's always spreading his knowledge to for us to understand the purposes of our minds. And here he is today to help us better understand. So let's welcome Dr. Roshan Dasari, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Sanjana. Thank you, Isha. Thank you, Happy to Thrive organization. And thank you, Nat. Humbled and honored to be here, um, sharing the word and spreading the word and talking to all of you about mental health and mental illness. Um, I wish I was this woke as you, Sanjana and Isha, when I was that, younger. You're doing so much more than I would ever imagine. Spread, community, given to community, the causes that you're doing. Kudos to you.
Thank
But
you.
never too late. So today I'll be talking about mental health and mental illness, and um, I think we'll have enough time for any questions. I think some of the questions that I already saw that some of you had, I should be addressing those in the presentation, but if they're not, we'll wait until the presentation is done, and I'll be happy to answer any and all. So let's just move on. So I was introduced, uh, Roshan Dasari, and I practice telepsychiatry from home. I've been working from home doing telepsychiatry for about 10, 11 years, long before COVID had us working from home. So I'm happy to do that. So I'm not complaining. So let's start. Are we able to move to the next slide? If we're having technical issues, guys, not my forte, so I'll try my best. Hold on. There you go. That's just a representation of mental health. I found the brain, but it's a lot more than the brain. That's the mind. So mental health essentially is health of the mind, related to the mind. Most of you, if not all of you, have heard of or read some of the writings of Sigmund Freud. This is what he has to say. The mind is like an iceberg, and it floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water, and 6/7 is under. That says a lot because Freud actually himself was a neurologist, but he has had significant contributions to psychiatry and psychology. And that again goes back to the brain and the mind. The mind and the body are not separate, they're all a part of our system. And the central point being mental health. Mental just means that it's of the mind. Unfortunately, there is a lot of stigma. We'll talk about it a little bit later. Telugulo, when we say mental uchinda, pichikkindani, it's a word that's used pejoratively, and that's a shame, because mental actually means anything and everything to do with how we think, how we feel, how we sense, the sounds, the sights, the feel, the percepts, all the senses, and how we even have ideas, concepts, how we communicate. The etymology, the origin actually, when it's from Old English, gemind or gemind, which has a root word in Norse, Latin, and Proto-Indo-European, including Sanskrit. And that's mens or manas in Sanskrit and manasu in Telugu, as you're aware. So I thought it'd be interesting to throw that in there. So there you go. Mind, mental health essentially is anything pertaining to the mind. Merriam-Webster, the definition, it has a state of emotional and psychological well-being where any individual is able to use his, her cognitive and emotional capabilities, capacities, and function at the best, their satisfactory level. Obviously, there are cultural differences, how assessments are made, how it's measured, that dictate the definitions, but for the most part, it's functioning at a satisfactory level. WHO, as more than likely all of you are familiar with, they have actually had a stand of there is no one official definition of mental health. But again, they go on the same line. It's a subjective well-being, perceived self-efficacy, how we think of ourselves, our self-esteem, how autonomous we can be once we get to a certain age and stage, and few other things like community work, contributing to community. Again, thanks to you guys, you're already contributing at such a young age. But all of that, depending on cultures, countries, continents, is a part of mental health. So that's all in the abstract, right? It's kind of hard when it's too abstract theories about mental health. Let's get to the nitty-gritty and the concrete. What is mental health? So what is it? It is important. It is vital. It is something all of us, everybody has. It is something all of us ought to take care of, give enough importance to it. It is something that is very intrinsic to our physical health and very probably, possibly inseparable, meaning they're together. You cannot separate them and invariably linked. One can lead to the other, one doing good, one not. It's inseparable, for the lack of a better way of saying it. We just talked about the nuances and the complex nature of mind, right? Complexity of the thoughts that go on in our head, in our mind, the feelings sometimes we have, the language, the words that we cannot use, choose. It's complex and absolutely real. Mental health is real. So it is not something, these days the word that's used is fake news. It is not, it's anything but. So the next slide is just as important, if not more. What it is not, what it isn't. This is more important because there is so much stigma, and I think the idea comes from the word itself. Words have meaning, words have strength, words have power. And sometimes when we don't completely understand what it means, unconsciously, subconsciously, we are biased against some things. So it is not a sign of weakness. It's not something to be ashamed of, nothing to be shameful of. It's not all in your mind. I'm using that as when somebody says it's all in your mind, all in your head, it's a very negative thing. Yes, it is in our head, but it is a whole lot more, and it is not made up. And it's not always something negative, nor is it something all positive and good emotions. And it is not interchangeable for mental illness. What I mean by that is somebody with mental illness, we'll talk about that in just a bit, could or could not be taking care of their mental health. And somebody without mental illness could be really ignoring their mental health. So it's on the continuum of what mental health is, and mental illness could be a part of that. Even if you took care of it, you could still develop it. If you don't take care of it, chances are it's going to be pretty, not only are you going to have it, but it is going to be pretty persistent, stubborn, and refractory to treatment. We'll talk about all of that in just a bit.
Dr. Dasari, I'm going to interrupt you here.
Yep.
Oftentimes, I know that people always just have this misconception that mental health is something that's, like you said, it's something that you can just snap out of, or something that it's like a momentary thing, or it's not like a developing thing. But just to reiterate, you said that it's definitely something that can happen to any of us at any point, and it's not something that's in our control. It's just as much of a, what is that? I want to say like an illness as it is like a physical symptom we might evaluate on our body, right?
Correct. That is exactly correct. So if you think of an analogy, physical health doesn't automatically equate to physical illness. So the same thing, we're using the word mental health as it's something that all of us have and something that we just cannot snap out of. It is something that how we function with our mind, how resilient we are with daily coping, daily stressors, work, college, relationships, how we function on a basic level to the higher levels of self-actualization. So absolutely, it is something, it is real, it is not feeling good or bad all the time, and it's very complex and nuanced.
I have a quick question pertaining to this. So we have like a lot of Indian parents joining us today. Do you think that particularly Indian parents kind of miss the signs like this in their like children? oftentimes they say, you know, it's all in your head, like just snap out of it, right? Is it because of the way our culture has kind of stigmatized mental health? Like, what's your take on that? On how
That's
culture
actually,
approach mental illnesses?
yeah, that's a great question. I think I'll be talking a little bit more later, but it's a great question. One, because mental health and mental health is universal everywhere. All of us have that, right? Mental illness, all of us might not have it, but we'll talk about the statistics, how common it is. And the idea of mental health or mental illness is not related to parents treating their kids a certain way, nor is it the other way around. Kids doing something in their parents' mental health going awry or them developing mental illness. It has nothing to do with parents feeling that their kids are causing it or kids thinking their parents are the cause. The stigma, on the other hand, is universal as well, unfortunately, meaning it cuts through the continents, cuts through cultures. So the stigma is out of ignorance. We'll talk about that. And that is the point I'm trying to make, that it is not unique to India. Yeah, it may be a difference in degree of how much, but it is not a difference of kind, meaning it's not 1 or 0. Ignorance is everywhere in the US, in the Western developed countries, in India, and everywhere. So there may be some differences of cultural aspects, but not to the point where it's there. It's there in India. It's not here. So it's all universal. I don't know if I answered the question, but it's not unique. Okay. I will be talking a little bit more about that, but that's a great question. To destigmatize, we need to be aware of what exactly we're talking about. And again, it's not fixed. It's on a continuum, and that's the part that's important. And the older we get, it may change where what we need to focus on, what we need to be aware of. So there you go. That's a really busy slide. And those of you taking notes, not taking notes, we have a test right after this. Make sure you get all of that. I'm kidding. No tests here. Before I get a headache, we'll move on. It's just a lot of disorders, a lot of names. There's no point going over every single one of those, but thought it was interesting. So that's one page, just of some of the umbrella of disorders, mental illness on the from, if you look at from the top to bottom in no particular order, you know, there are persistent neurodevelopmental disorders, like you've probably heard of Asperger's, autistic spectrum disorder, autism. There are depressive disorders. The differences I'll talk about. There was a question about cyclical depression. I'll talk about that in a bit. Question time. There is bipolar disorder. Depression is considered unipolar. The poles, one side, that's major depression. Bipolar has to have on the opposite side mania or hypomania. So those are the depressive or affective disorders. Bipolar disorders, what used to be called affective or mood disorders, and then the schizophrenia spectrum, which are the thought, used to be called the thought disorders, but those are the so-called delusional psychotic disorders where perception is altered, and that's definitely considered one of the serious mental illness. And then there is the anxiety disorders, the panic disorders, phobias, all kinds of phobias, generalized anxiety. This is probably the most common of all the disorders. We're talking about 18 to 19% prevalence, meaning about 1 out of every 5. That's how high the prevalence is throughout, not just in the US. That's how high they are. And then depressive disorders next. I think there was a question about what are the most common. And then there are others that are in the realm of neurology and psychiatry, the sleep-wake disorders, neurocognitive disorders like Alzheimer's, dementia, delirium, all of those also fall under psychiatry. And some personality disorders. So the list goes on, and as you probably know, it's impossible to cover all of that. If you heard of how they're classified, how we came up with this, not something just somebody came up with. I don't know if you heard of it. This is the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, and the 5th edition, which just came out a couple of years ago. That's what we use here in the US. Globally, WHO helping with that, it's called ICD-10, very comparable, very reliable, inter-rated reliability. So what they do is they take studies over continents, tens of thousands of patients, and over time come up with what would be considered a specific disorder. So there you have it. That's how we have all of these disorders, not just arbitrary, based on a lot of research. So that's mental illness and the disorders. These next two slides are pretty important because what does that even mean? How do you know who has what? How do you know about any of the disorders? So there is some way to do that, and the best way is kind of being as familiar with what are called the warning signs or symptoms of a potential underlying mental illness. That could include on the spectrum of thoughts of actually wanting to hurt yourself or others, dramatic changes in emotions. Granted, we all have, if we have kids, and if we are kids ourselves, adolescents, we have dramatic change in our emotions, and that's totally within the normal realm. I'm talking here about completely out of context, out of situation where the emotions are far out from a simple thing. Granted, again, some of us from adolescent age, teenage years, we never grow out of it, but still, it's a way more of an inappropriate situational outburst.
Can I
Fear,
ask if,
yep,
can I
go
ask
ahead.
if you think schools and where parents work, like the workforce areas, do you think they're well equipped to handle like those who are mentally ill, to accommodate for their needs anywhere around the world? Like, and if not, what do you think has to be done?
Well, that's such a probably a billion or billions dollar question, right? US luckily does have relatively really well equipped schools in that there are guidance counselors to specific mental health counselors that are very familiar. They've had psychology, they've had training in basic idea of what the diagnoses are, and they're definitely aware of what the warning signs are. And what they do is they don't diagnose and treat. Obviously, when they find that a student or somebody is actually struggling with it, they actually help facilitate the transition into the mental health specialist they need, whatever that might be. A therapist, a social worker, a psychiatrist, combination of all of the above. Unfortunately, can't say the same with underdeveloped, developing countries, and I wish I had the statistics in India. It's definitely improving quite a bit from what I understand, but I don't have the stats, and all I can say is there is still a lot of room for improvement in schools understanding what mental health, mental illness is. So there's a lot more to do.
Dr. Dasari, I know in
Yeah.
this you mentioned that mental illnesses are not yet limited to just either depression or anxiety, although they can be more of the common ones. Oftentimes, I think a misconception is that people think it's just limited to that when there are a whole wide variety of mental illnesses, like you mentioned.
Correct.
These symptoms apply to all of the different types of mental illnesses we can see, or do you think these are just specifically for like one of the depression or like anxiety?
Yeah, some of the symptoms, the warning signs I was talking about, there is another slide coming up. They are more than just depression and anxiety. Some of them are actually the beginning stages, possibly schizophrenia. They could be symptoms of ADHD. They could be symptoms of young age personality disorders that are developing, conduct disorder. There are multiple, a plethora of, we're talking about at least in the slides, I think I tried to get as much as 20 to 30 disorders, and that's obviously not all inclusive. So depression, anxiety, sure, they're the most common, but there is a whole lot more than that when it comes to what the disorders are and the diagnoses are. And a point well made, because I think that's the important, when somebody has an idea of these are some of the warning signs and symptoms, please do not research Google and self-diagnose yourself. That probably is extremely important, because Google, as invaluable as it is, the search by itself, it's only good until a certain point. As you probably heard, dog bites man is never news, man bites dog will be. And that's number one in Google. So you only get the sensationalized things when you look for a search in terms of symptoms. So what I'm saying is that is probably the least effective, efficient way of searching. So start there if you need to, but do not stop there, please. So answer long-winded is, yeah, there are a lot more diagnoses and disorders. Extreme difficulty concentrating, staying still, one of the last ones. That could be evolution of attention deficit disorder that actually manifests itself at a very young age, 4 or 5 years of age. Overwhelming fear for no reason, with feeling like your heart's pounding, heart's racing, you're short of breath, you can't breathe, pins and needles in your fingers, numbness, a sense of dread, like you're having a heart attack, something terrible is going to happen. I'm describing a panic attack, and that can happen with no stress at all. And there are so many other warning signs to watch out for: sudden or significant weight loss or weight gain, and a lot more here. I'm not going to read each of these, but a sudden withdrawal from all kinds of social activities, kind of secluding oneself, isolating themselves. It's almost like they're not even themselves. And that could be a beginning stages of what's called a prodromal symptoms of schizophrenia. It could go on to be an affective disorder like a bipolar disorder or depression. So the idea being these are the warning signs, and then there are steps that can be taken, which I'll be getting to in a bit, what to do. But yeah, it's a whole gamut, a whole spectrum of so many disorders, and some of them can present the same way in the beginning, but the outcome could be completely different. Unexplained changes in personality. Somebody who's outgoing, happy-go-lucky kind of person, all of a sudden is completely reticent, won't talk, personality change, temperament change, if you will. All of a sudden, somebody has an intense fear of weight gain to the point where there are dramatic changes in eating habits. Granted, again, that how do you draw the spectrum? Somebody could just be all of a sudden really aware of their eating habits not being good, but that's where I think it's a dramatic change to the point where it's noticeable objectively, looking at them and how their day-to-day activities are. Some of the other personality disorders I was talking about from a young age, defiance of authority, and not caring for rules, not caring for house rules, rules at school, not having a sense of remorse or guilt about something, doing something, a sense of empathy, if you will, not having that. All of those could be the beginning stages of conduct disorder or antisocial personality disorder. Delusions and hallucinations, like I mentioned, it's the percepts we talked about. We have the 5 senses, but there's a whole lot more than 5 senses, and how our mind conceptualizes them and what we think of a color, right? It could be so objectively different from what others think. Although we don't think about it, we take it for granted what a color is, what our eyes see, what we smell, what we hear. And when those beliefs are an individual having a change in that perception where they're hearing things, believing things, seeing things that are not real, could mean that they're having beginning stages again of schizophrenia or depression or bipolar disorder. And I think it's all based on, again, follow-up over time and getting the right help. I can go on, but I think the idea is the warning signs are important to notice. But more important is not to self-diagnose and get the help you need. Before I get to what to do and how to go about it, I do want to some statistics. Without numbers, without statistics, all of this can just be a woo kind of talk. So the first one, if you see, 1 out of every 5 adults has had an experience of mental illness in their lifetime. So we're talking 20%. So I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. There you have it. 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. I'm joking, but it's 1 out of 5, and that says a lot. And this is not talked about enough. And the second one, if you see, it is the prevalence is less, but that is the serious mental illness, or what's called a chronic persistent mental illness, severe major depression that doesn't completely go away, bipolar disorder 1 that has severe symptoms that can be debilitating lifelong, schizophrenia, autism spectrum, or autism which can be pretty severe and persistent. That's serious mental illness, and that's 1 in 25. That is still a lot, 1 out of 25. And look at this, the 50%, close to 50% of individuals that are going to have mental illness, typically it happens by age 14. 75%, 3/4, by the age of 24. Doesn't mean if somebody's sighing relief, you're older than 25, does not mean you're not going to get it. You can, any of us can. That's the idea I'm trying to make. Although 75%, it's usually before 25. I think it's the same statistics in a different format. 3 to 5% with serious mental illness, and 1 out of 5, again, any kind of mental illness. This gives an idea of some of the more common or heard of disorders. And the last one is the most common, the anxiety disorders, as we talked about 18%, 42 million diagnosed. And the numbers, for all kinds of reasons, if anything, are more conservative. Chances are the numbers are actually much higher. Patients not even going in because of the stigma, not even going to their primary care, not let alone going to psychiatrists. So if you think these numbers may be inflated, it's the other way around. If anything, they're not. The numbers are probably very higher than what you see. Major depression is about 7%. Bipolar disorder is about 2.5 to 3. And schizophrenia is about 1 out of 100. When you follow up over time, what becomes schizophrenia, that's about 1 out of 100. Go ahead.
So on the slide, it says 18.1% with anxiety, right? Which is higher than the other ones. Can you define anxiety for people who are watching? Like, what exactly is it?
So it's, again, anxiety disorders are a whole spectrum of disorders. I think in a previous slide, I can go back in a bit, but it could be what's called generalized anxiety disorder, where somebody's constantly worrying, constantly doubting themselves, constantly, what if? The thoughts are always, what if something goes wrong? There is a tightness. They feel a general sense of tightness on a regular basis. It can get to the point of not being able to do basic things because the thoughts, the nervous thoughts, and the symptoms of anxiety physiologically, physically, which could be panic attacks, could get debilitating enough that they're getting to the point of not even leaving home, let alone get their school, college, things like that done. On the other hand, there are phobias, specific phobias, from fear of darkness to fear of heights to fear of all kinds of things that limit them from going out of their way, avoiding that. And then there is agoraphobia, which is fear of fear. Starts with a fear of something general, generic, and then that fear as an entity gets to the point of you fear something bad is going to happen, either because you're having a panic attack, and it's a cycle that self-perpetuates. And then there are other anxiety disorders that even without panic attacks, it's a whole spectrum of about close to 10 or more disorders that are in that anxiety disorder spectrum. Used to be that OCD was a part of anxiety disorders. They've separated that in DSM-5 and ICD-10 as a separate entity altogether, although it has some elements of anxiety within. It's separated. The other one is post-traumatic stress disorder, that some or most of you may have heard of, a trauma, and then how our brain and body and mind reacts to the trauma, post-traumatic stress, and that has a lot of anxiety and panic attacks within, with other symptoms of reliving, a sense of hypervigilance. So it's a whole spectrum again, but we can definitely go back to that slide in a bit. But that is the most common as a spectrum umbrella of disorders.
And Dr. Dasari, going off of this topic, we actually got a question from the audience. It said,
Yep.
what is the probability of misdiagnosis of mental health illnesses? Because many times the symptoms are very standard across like many anxiety disorders, as you were mentioning.
Great question. And that's a question that actually, those are the questions that are important, because if as an individual you go to a provider and you've just been given a diagnosis in the first time, you've not had but 15-20 minutes, yeah, definitely doubt that provider. So yes, so usually a good clinician or good psychiatrist almost never diagnoses in the first setting. The idea is, what's going on right now, what are you struggling with right now, but the context of what may be going on in their lives, how old they are, what kind of stressors they're having, their family history, their previous history. Is there something else that could be adding to it? Self-medication and alcohol, drugs, or there are so many other things that could actually medically also, start somebody having a panic attack because of extremely high thyroid, T4, T3 thyroid hormone. So the idea is the diagnoses should not be anyways, ought not to be made the first time. And that's where you follow up if the symptoms go away by themselves or if the symptoms are getting worse with other symptoms. And that's how the diagnoses are made. So if somebody's diagnosing them immediately the first time, although, it changes, absolutely, that's the wrong provider. You got to change the provider. So it's a very good question, because we don't have what's called validity and reliability. These are two basic scientific tools we have used in measurement of diseases, measurement of health, measurement of a lot of things, right? Blood pressure, we have a range of what's supposed to be normal, what's out of the normal. We have infectious diseases. There is a germ, there is a bug, causes a disease, right? And there is pathophysiology, migraines to hypertension to diabetes. There is something happening at a molecular cellular level that we can study. And that's the part with psychiatry and mental health and mental illness that's a holy grail. We haven't gotten there yet. We're behind. There is so much more. Remember the 1/7 of the iceberg? That is how much more we need to understand neuroscientifically. So that said, validity may not be the biggest friend of psychiatry, but we have reliability. That is reproducible results over and over again, and that is what we have. Think of a ruler, right? You have a wooden or a metal ruler. You measure almost exactly the same every time. So reliability, you may have that, but you found out that it's actually not 1 meter, 1 foot. So it's not valid. You have a rubber ruler and it's accurate, exactly 1 foot, but it may not be reliable depending on how you measure it. It's flexible. So that's the idea of measuring something and having a valid result and or reliable result. So point is, how do you know? We don't. We try not to. Only a few times that's it. This person has this almost the first time. Majority of the time you can't the first time.
And you mentioned family history. You guys take a look at family history right before diagnosing.
Absolutely.
So I don't think people realize that, mental illnesses can be genetic, right? Oftentimes when we think of family history, we think, okay, do I have heart disease because someone else has it? Do I have diabetes? But we don't think about mental illnesses. So how important do you think it is to focus on that also?
Extremely important. As are any other disorders, nature and nurture, both of them play a significant role. And nature, which is genetics, heredity, is absolutely a key role. But again, the complexity and the nuances of what we talked about, the mind, applies to mental health, mental illness as well, because there are some old school Darwinian genetic principles that are cystic fibrosis comes to mind, Down syndrome, classic one gene specifically, and you have a disorder, right? We're talking on the levels of hundreds of places on different genomic structures that actually have epigenetic changes, which is genetics affecting the environment affecting the genetics part. That is how much we're learning from genetics, psychiatric genetics part of it. So without a doubt, family history plays a role, but I wish I could say it's as simple as mom has it, you have it. It's not that simple, because think of the mind again and what all it does. Us talking about things right now and having an idea, there are literally billions of neurons pruning away and forming connections in ways that we have so much more to understand. But absolutely, genetics play a role. Moving on to the next one. Any questions? Definitely interrupt me, but all great questions. So what happens? We talked about a little bit about what the symptoms are, and what do you do? Well, when somebody has the symptoms and or illnesses and they're especially not getting the treatment, look at the risk factors of somebody with mental illness. 100% more, double the rate of cardiometabolic disease. We're talking hypertension, we're talking diabetes, we're talking obesity, metabolic syndromes, coronary artery diseases. 1 out of 5 individuals with mental illness have a co-occurring substance use disorder. Could be alcohol, could be stimulants, could be other drugs off the street, could be self-medication. They're in so much psychic, emotional pain, and there's stigma. They're not even seeking out treatment. They're self-medicating themselves with alcohol. Veterans coming back, a lot of times because of stigma, they actually, majority of them have historically just taken to alcohol as a self-medication. The horrors they've seen in the war, coming back, not being able to deal with general day-to-day lives with the post-traumatic stress symptoms, alcohol, drugs, and 1 out of 5. 1 out of 8 ER visits are related to mental health, mental illness, and or substance use disorders. And that's a statistic important to remember. And look at that, depression and anxiety disorders just within the umbrella. $1 trillion each year globally, lost productivity. 12 zeros, not a million, not a billion, $1 trillion each year. And depression, by the way, is the leading cause of disability globally. That has been studied multiple times, because the level of severity that depression can impact. More of the same consequences and impact. We talked about the numbers, $1 trillion, addiction, co-occurring, self-medication. The homeless, 1 out of 4 homeless adults staying in shelters have had serious mental illness. Now, it's a chicken and egg. What caused what? We can say homelessness, did that cause the symptoms or illness, or did the illness cause that? It's impossible to know, because it's a vicious self-perpetuating cycle. Point is, they correlate, they go together. Correlation is not causation, but it's important to know that 1 out of 4 of homeless actually have had that illness, which means that so many of them are not getting the help. And that's just a staggering and unacceptable statistic in my mind anyways.
I just want to reiterate, you just said correlation is not causation. I think
Correct.
that's a powerful statement that really made sense. If you could just explain that one more time, because
yeah, absolutely. So when you look at that statistic in this specific example, 26% of homeless adults staying in shelters actually live with serious mental illness. One can make a case who probably may be biased against mental health, that may be biased against socioeconomic status, maybe other things, that maybe they have mental illness because they're homeless, or maybe they have, they're homeless because they have serious mental illness. Who cares, without knowing what actually may happen. So there is something called a biopsychosocial model, that what it does is, the medical model is amazing for valid diagnoses in medicine, right? We've come so far measuring things state of the art in medical disorders, neurological disorders. We talked about the shortcomings, of diagnosing mental illnesses and why it takes a while. So when we have just a medical model and looking at just measuring something, we don't have that. So there is a biological part of it. The biological part is a genetic predisposition that we talked about. Biological part could be a significant medical illness itself perpetuating or making things worse. Biological part could be mom having had depression while pregnant, being on drugs. A lot of things could be biologically responsible predisposing factors. And then there are what are called precipitating factors. Somebody develops seizures, that could actually cause a lot of symptoms. Perpetuating factors could be ongoing biological reasons. That's part of biopsychosocial. Psychological, that could be anywhere from severe losses, divorce, losing everything, Katrina, things that happen in life that take away kind of everything what we've had. Psychologically, temperament, personalities, we talked about a little bit, but not enough. Those could predispose the individuals to a whole lot more comorbid anxiety, depression, and all. Psychologically, they could be in abusive relationships. Psychologically, they've seen trauma to the point where their minds can't make sense anymore. Social aspects, again, goes back to significant changes and losses and environmental factors that could play a role. So the biopsychosocial model plays in ways that it's hard to quantify and qualify. That's what I mean by correlation is not causation, because it's easy to jump into a value judgment looking at that for somebody who's not aware, saying this is probably why. And that happens a lot. So we don't have specific exact causes in psychiatry, unfortunately, as much as we'd like to. A long way to go. Did I answer the question or just gone long-winded without answering?
No, you did.
Okay. State prisoners, 1 out of 4, recent history of mental health condition. We talked about depression being globally the #1 unfortunate cause of lost productivity. Just in the US, the second statistic, close to $200 billion because of serious mental illness lost in lost earning every year. Unsustainable, staggering statistics. 90% of individuals who die by suicide have had an underlying mental illness. A little bit more of the same. Sad part again is nearly 60% of adults with mental illness have not had any services, no mental health services the previous year. And 50% of youth, about 8 to 15 years, haven't received mental health services either. Stratifying that by race, the study looks at, compared to whites, African Americans and Hispanic Americans use mental health services about half the time, only 50%. And Asian Americans, which includes all of us, a third of utilizing or using mental health services. Again, staggering, sad, unfortunate, unsustainable. So hopefully we can actually all play our role in spreading the word. But the good news again is we have, despite all of this grim news, there is definitely good news. There is progress being made without a doubt. And the idea is, again, if you or your significant other, your loved ones, your family members, friends of yours, colleagues have these symptoms, what do? That's important, right? To know, what if you have the symptoms? What do you do? What if somebody you know well, they have the symptoms? What do? Talk to somebody, talk to family member, talk to a confidant, talk to a good friend, talk to teacher, professor, your coach, your faith leader, any community member. okaytotalk.org, that's one of the sites. If you're not comfortable, there are peer support groups who have same kind of symptoms, and that makes a world of difference usually when somebody's already doubting themselves, what has changed, what's going on. Being able to reach out and connect with people, connect with other individuals who are struggling with this, not only validates that something is wrong with them, but they're not alone. So you're not alone. Listen, understand what somebody's experiencing, what their symptoms might be, the warning signs might be, and how that's impacting their day-to-day life. And making that connection of talking, asking questions, and understanding is often that's the most important first step to get into treatment. And the serious mental illness we talked about, getting help early may make a significant difference, enough that the symptoms, there is a chance that we can actually get those individuals back to close to 100% of what their baseline is. And there is a case to be made even for any mental illness, but specifically the seriously mentally ill. There was a question here, I think, that somebody asked, parent, adolescent, how do you talk to your kids, and how do you, react, and how do you understand what they're going through? I should have put the reference here. There is a book, brilliant book, simple, common sense, but all of us miss it. It's a book, it's called How to Talk to Your Kid So They'd Listen, and How to Listen So They'd Talk. Maybe I'll send that over later, but it's a brilliant book for all parents. I promise this. Any parent should read this. Any adolescent, teenager, any kid who's struggling with their parents should read this, because sometimes we forget that we are in our own minds and how we project everything onto our kids, adolescents, and the stress that they have to go through. So that book I would recommend to literally anybody and everybody: How to Talk to Your Children So They Will Listen, and How to Listen So They Will Talk. Be empathetic in understanding what they're going through and connect them. If you don't have to be an expert, it's the idea of what's the next step, reaching out and getting the help you need. Mental health. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yep.
I read this thing somewhere where it says, when a child goes to talk to their parent about how they're feeling mentally, if the parent tries to like immediately diagnose them or tries to like snap them out of it, it'll just make it worse, because then the child won't go back and talk to the parent, right? So what is your take on parents not willing to take their child to get more help, and instead just kind of end the conversation there and say, you have this, just move on?
What I can say is, I wish I could talk to those parents, all those parents, because you can't go back and change things. And God forbid something happens to your child, any adult, any parent's child, that is probably the worst thing a parent could ever go through. But the idea is, not every time a child goes through something, a parent has to worry about the worst case scenario. But just stop and think, what if you're wrong? What kind of expertise do you have as a parent thinking this is exactly what they have? And it maybe hopefully, if they can conceptualize the worst case and err on the side of safety, instead of making an assumption and being certain about what they think their kid has. In my mind, you just can't go wrong getting that help. So
Someone said kids meaning teenagers here, but mental illnesses can affect anyone, right? Any age.
correct.
So-
From 5-year-old to 90-year-old, absolutely.
Mhm. Oh, and he was talking about the book. Is the book that you mentioned, is it a good read for adolescents?
Absolutely. Actually, there is the main book is How to Talk to Your Children So They Will Listen, how to listen to their talk. And there are two more: How to Talk to Your Adolescents specifically, and How to Talk to Your, I can't remember if it's parents probably, but there are three. The first book is How to Talk to Your Children. Then there is an adolescent one. So you can buy one or both, but absolutely, it's a good read for anybody, any age, period. This is a great quote. Ruby Wax is she's given a lot of TED Talks. She's a comedian. She's brilliant. She struggled herself with significant mental illness, and she does TED Talks, and she talks about it in such a great way. I mean, anybody should listen to her. Actually, it is so common, mental illness. That is, it could be anyone. The trouble is, nobody wants to talk about it, and that makes everything worse. Bill Clinton said it aptly: mental illness is nothing to be ashamed of, but stigma and bias shame us all. we talked about it a little bit. I think, mental illness does not discriminate. Unfortunately, stigma doesn't either. And it is not unique to India, and it is not unique to one culture, one race. It's all through. Anybody and everybody can have mental illness. So the idea of mental health, taking care of your mental health, even if you were not to develop mental illness, is a no-brainer. Everybody should take care of their mental health, period. And even more important, if we do have mental illness, that makes our treatments and whatever we're going through optimizes that and gets us to as close to 100%, of what we want to need to be. The idea of all of the stigma, the next pages end the stigma. How do you do it? How do you end stigma when it's everywhere? Destigmatize the question. One of the questions was, what's the most effective way? There is no one way. You have heard this, and I'm sure most of you have heard this. Asatoma sadgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya. From falsehood, deliver us the truth. From darkness, bring us to light. The idea is there is a common element between fear, hatred, stigma, bias. Anybody wants to guess what that is? It's ignorance. That's it. It's ignorance. It's to call it all of these are the ugly faces of ignorance. And the only way to shine light on darkness is shine light on ignorance. The only way to do that is spread the word. One mind at a time, one person at a time. May happens to be the Mental Health Awareness Month. May August be the month. May today be the month. May every day be the day of spreading the word about mental health, mental illness. It doesn't have to be 1 month. But for trivia, May is the month. Again, knowledge is power. Nothing works better than knowledge, even if the only way to eradicate, destigmatize is spread knowledge. That's the only way to do it. Our former First Lady, the beautiful Michelle Obama, she actually just in her podcast last week announced that she herself has struggled with depression. At the root of this dilemma is the way we view mental health in this country. Whether an illness affects your heart, your leg, or brain, there should not be any distinction. Power to her coming out. This is where it helps somebody coming out and saying, I have had it too. And that is the way to actually let people know this is not something anybody's making up. This is real. Again, out of all of this, if I'm only sounding negative, that's just my desperation to spread the word. There is always hope. There is no doubt about it in my mind. And that light will shine, that ignorance will be gone, and all of us have to play our part. More importantly, asking for help is not a weakness. Asking for help actually is a sign of tremendous strength and courage. I think that's the key bottom line I want to say. So never hesitate asking for help. Even if it's you, somebody you know, reach out. There are a lot of sources here that feel free to use. Brilliant sources. NAMI, the first one, is probably a source that it's National Alliance for Mental Illness, and they, from giving you resources about specific disorders, symptoms, warning signs, a lot of the slides actually I directly took from NAMI's website. Not only that, but you can actually, your local chapters, every state, almost every small town has NAMI. So you can actually call them and talk to somebody about, I just want to talk about it. Educate yourself about mental health, about mental illness. NAMI is an amazing source, but okay to talk if for whatever reason you're not able to connect and talk to your parents, your kids, your significant other. That's a great place to actually connect and see if you get more, if you're shy, if you're feeling you're not able to kind of even start the process, the conversation. Again, NIH, there are multiple sources that you can go find: mental health specialists, psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, what have you. So there is hope. So that's the bottom line. And if I missed out on something, I hope to definitely take up any questions, and feel free to just shoot them my way, and I'll try my best to answer them.
Thank you, Dr. Dasari. That was very informative, and it definitely put a lot of things into perspective, because I think there are a lot of misconceptions and generalizations that oftentimes we don't even realize we make. And there were a couple of questions in the chat window if you wanted to take a look at it. I think we addressed them as we were going along, but.
And if anyone has any more questions, what is the best way to reach you, Dr. Dasari?
The best way?
It's not permitting us to like answer all of them right now. Have any questions?
Email, and I'll be happy to reach out in whatever forum we can do, either through Zoom, Facebook. I'm technologically not the best, as you already are aware. So whichever way, I'll be happy to respond, even if it takes a while. Okay. So Sanjana, help me out. You want to read a couple questions? Which direction, from top to bottom, bottom to top?
I'll read from bottom to top. All right.
Okay, thank you.
One question we got were, what are the things we have to do to take care of mental health in general? Like on a general basis, what are some things we can include in our daily activities to maintain good well-being?
Great question. Again, actually, that's the one I think I missed out on. That's such a good question, because one part of it is actually seeking help if there is mental illness, if there are symptoms. But what do you do, generally speaking, to take care of mental health, right? They may sound cliched, but the idea of live well, meaning whatever you want to do, you're pursuing short-term, long-term goals. Have a clear idea of what they are, and have a routine. Have a routine of what you do: healthy diets, exercising, walks, nature, hobbies, crafts, whatever it is. Don't give up on those. What you like should never be stopped just because there is a lot of stress. You can make time. So part of that living well, part of that mental health, taking care of that, is actually not forgetting, not just the stress of school, college, work, 70 hours a week, still making time. I know it may seem impossible. It is possible. Making time for those things that your own heart, your own mind needs, deserves, and you deserve that. So that's a part of, call it taking care of your true core self. Be close to your support network system, your family, your friends, your community, peer support groups. There is a couple of concepts in Japanese. One of that is moai. I think it's MOAI. What that means is connecting with groups from way back in childhood to in the past, and continuing that connection all the way through, even if it's through Zoom, even if it's through once a year talking about how things are going. Those connections are kind of everything. We are social animals, and without that, there is another book called Together by our previous Obama time Surgeon General Vivek Murthy. He was a Surgeon General. He wrote the book called Together. It's a brilliant, beautifully written book. Most of it is about loneliness. Loneliness, not just somebody just old and they lost their partner. Loneliness in the world we live in, from 5 years old all the way, we are so connected, yet we're so isolated. So the connections here are meaningful connections, connecting in a way that makes meaning and gives purpose to us, in a way that we feel that we're not missing out on that. But that's Moai, making time for those connections. And the other part of that is called Ikigai, which is, we have our, we have our passion, we have a mission, we have a profession, and we have vocation. So we're something we're good at, something we're paid well for, something we're passionate about, something we enjoy doing. In the core of all of those is Ikigai, finding that what gets you going, what wakes you up in the morning, what is your meaning or purpose, or raison d'etre, to keep going every day. That's important, because we can't lose perspective of what we truly are. Connecting that Ikigai and Moai is something that somebody asked over the years, what a big takeaway. This is what it is. Whatever you're doing, please do it for your true inner satisfaction, not just external recognition. And I think this is probably universal, but I, being born and raised in India, in Gudivada, and then, moving here, I really do believe the external recognition part is so huge in Indian families. It's what would they think becomes internalized as a core. And that's a shame. I'm not saying you should just do anything and everything to, publicly humiliate others, but understand what your core of what you want to do and do it for your personal satisfaction. External recognition will happen, but that should not be the goal. I think I said too much there, but that's what I think. Living well, essentially.
You actually hit my concluding question. That's exactly what I was going to ask you. What is your biggest takeaway? But like you said, it's to live satisfactorily to our core and do what it essentially makes us happy.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Dasari. That was very informative, and I hope that everyone learned something out of all this.
Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you, Naps. I just want to quickly name one of the core peoples that have worked with us on behalf of NAPS, who helped us bring this event to you guys. That is Sridhar Appasani Garu, the chairman of NAPS, Vijay Shekhar Anne Garu, the president of NAPS, Prashant Pinnamaneni Garu, Srinivas Malladi Garu, Rajesh Kandru Garu, and Sudhir Mikileni Garu. Thank you all for helping us out, and thank you all who are watching the webinar. I know there's a lot of Indian parents that joined, so I hope you guys got something out of it. And for those of you who aren't parents and are our ages, then I also hope you got something out of it.
Okay. Thank you, Isha. And I'm going to do the closing with from NATS. This is Srinivas Malladi. I'm the NATS Vice President for Marketing and Finances for 2020 and 2022. And NATS is an organization with a non-profitable organization serving the Indian community in US and in India. We do a lot of webinars like this, and we did almost like a 20-30 webinars in COVID related to COVID effect, how it's affecting to our community. And similar way, today we are aligned with Sanjana and Isha. We conducted this seminar, and I would like to say thanks to Sanjana and Isha. Great job, you guys brought it here. And I would like to say Sai Ronak is awesome dancer. I can see it. I never danced before, but I feel like I want to dance today. Okay, he's an awesome teacher.
I have no uncle.
Okay, thank you. And again, I would like to say Roshan Garu is an awesome explanation. Until now, I do not know what is a mental health. You explained the differences between mental health and mental illness. Is awesome. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
No. Humbled and honored, and thank you, all of you, for doing the groundwork and making this happen. And you should definitely dance. That's probably your calling. You've been missing out on that. Thank you, everybody.
And now I'm going to say thanks to my team, Nats, and our chairman, Sridhar Appasani Garu, to approve this event, and our Nats president, Vijay Shekhar Anne, and our back pillar of Tampa Bay chapter is Prashant Pinnamaneni Garu, and Rajesh Kandru Garu, and Sudhir Mikileni, and Prasad Arikatla. Thanks for your work, and a lot of back work we done, and great, and thank you a lot.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Bye.